Game on.
Hey there, game gurus. Welcome back to the channel. Today's a kind of cool day for me. I had items sent to me from one of my YouTube subscribers, Tim. It did come in the rain though, and the post office did leave it out in the rain. My porch is covered 10 feet away from my driveway, but they decided, no, I'm going to leave it in the rain. So hopefully whatever he sent me came okay. Well, let's see what Tim sent me in this unboxing video. Okay, so I did let the box dry out a little bit before I decided to open it. I don't want the box kind of falling apart. It was very soft. Hopefully everything is okay. Tim is a really good guy. He's a friend and a subscriber to my channel. And he sent me an Odyssey 2 with some awesome games when my basement had flooded. It was supposed to have been fixed by now, but the guy who was going to work in my basement, well, backed out. So basement's not being worked on yet, so it kind of sucks. But let's see what's here. Let's see if everything arrived okay. I got my little razor blade here. Let's get this box open here. And unboxings are always kind of cool. Never know what you're going to get. Let's see if we get this thing open here. And let's see what we got. Well, the first thing you always get is some nice bubble wrapping, which is also excellent when you're shipping these type of items. And I kind of see already what the first item is in here. And let's pull it out so you guys kind of see what I see. And it looks like we have an Atari 800 XL. Now, I was talking to Tim when I was out with him at the Cleveland Gaming Classic, and we're both big Atari fans. I mean, I'm definitely a big Atari fan. I only have an Atari 400. I also have the XE game system. Of course, the consoles like the 2600, 5200, 7800, and then Jaguar and the Atari Lynx. I have all those. But I never had the bigger machines. Now this is the second generation of the Atari 800 or 8-bit series. The original Atari 800 was very similar to the Atari 400. It actually had two cartridge slots, a left and a right cartridge slot. And no one ever used that right cartridge slot. I think there was only one cartridge for that right cartridge slot. So they did away with it. And they have a top load here, game cartridge here. And it's still got the plastic cellophane on it, which is kind of cool. And actually the Atari logo here also has the protective covering on it. There is some yellowing on the console itself. You can kind of see the color a little bit better, perhaps on the back. But it really doesn't look like it's in too bad a shape. There's not a lot of scratches or anything on here. We'll get a closer look at the machine in a second. But this looks like a really good example. A little retro brighting would probably fix this right up. I'm going to put this aside just for 1 second and see what else we have inside the box here. Let's put this down where it's not going to fall, because that would really stink. Well, one of my favorite games, the Asteroids game from Atari. And you can see right here on the top, it actually says left cartridge. Because again, the original Atari 800 had a right and a left. But of course, that was the only machine that did. They did away with that right cartridge, and everything else just became left. But they still have these markings here on the top. And it's like an aluminum stainless steel back part with one screw, and then the rest is a plastic with a little cartridge cover there. Let's see what else we have inside here. We have a classic game switch box. Now, back in the day, I know you kids don't know about these type of things, but back in the day, you had to reach behind your television set and switch it from TV to computer. And that was the same with the game consoles of the day. Now, it's funny, the Atari 5200, not the Nintendo, the Atari 5200 was actually the first console that had a powered and automatic game switch. You press the power button on the 5200, it got power through that cable, and it actually switched it to the computer. It wasn't Nintendo with the first. But back in the day, you had to reach behind these big TV sets, probably inside a big piece of furniture, to kind of switch this over back and forth. And it still has the protective foam on the back. It looks in actually perfect condition. What else do we have in here? We have, it looks like just an RF. I never saw one like this. It is an RF cable, so you have an RCA connector on both sides, but it has I'm assuming like a Faraday cage or something like that. It's usually a magnet to help with outside interference, but I never saw one. It says two computers, it's got the Atari logo on it. I've never seen one like this. And it is made in Taiwan, back in the days when that was the place everything was made. Put that aside. There's still more in here. What else have we got in here? Wow. In typical Atari fashion, this is the power supply. So look at this thing. Again, it looks like in really good shape, but at least it's not the power brick like going right into the wall. They do give you a regular plug, and then it's a 5-pin DIN connector on here. And it looks like retro writing could be used here as well, but this is supplying 5 volts and 1.5 amps on this big, honking, heavy power brick. I think that's everything that's in the box. There is a, gotta put this down somewhere. I did get a letter, it looks like, as well, from Tim. And it says, Glen enclosed an Atari 800 power supply and old school TV connections, more for nostalgia. The switcher was never used and is brand new, old, new stock. You couldn't find an extra video cable, that's okay. RF is the way to go, but I can actually make an RF video cable if I wanted to do that. And he thought I would enjoy Asteroids as well. It was the pack-in for the XL, I guess, back in the day. Tim, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Let me get a closer look of this console for you guys, and then we'll close out the video. Okay, this is what I got from Tim, and it is in really, really good shape. Now, I want you to look at this power supply. Look at the size of this thing. It is like huge compared to the actual console itself. So the power supply is not built in here. I actually almost wish it was, because this is just such a big power brick. And the power supply switcher is actually on here. So it's a shame Atari didn't build that into the console. It's actually so big. I'm going to move this out of the frame just for a moment. I can see even the switcher box back in the day. They made smaller ones. It's really just taking the signals here and allowing you to basically switch it between the computer coming in here and your TV rabbit ears antenna. That's all those things really did. It was definitely the lowest quality picture you would have gotten, but it was extremely common back in the day, late 70s, 77 to maybe early 90s, that people were still using these type of devices until computer monitors started coming down in price and people started using just composite and then component and then of course RGB and so forth. But this was back in the day how it was done, and most of these machines, because of it, only did 40-column displays. So when you're doing like word processing, it was a little more interesting because you have 40 columns and 40 columns to do each line. But back in the day, unfortunately, that is how we had to do it. And this is how you would connect it. This would go into here, like so, and then this would connect to the back of your machine. But I never saw one with such a large Faraday magnet on there to try and keep out interference from the power supply. I'm going to put these aside as well. And of course we have our game cartridge, and the game cartridge simply goes right here on top, just like so, inside the machine. Cartridges with Atari and a lot of the early machines, Commodore 64, still use these. It was an easy way to load games on, but of course the most expensive way. It was definitely cheaper going with cassettes or the floppy disks, and if you're really adventurous, typing them in by hand. But you better have at least a cassette drive available, and God forbid if power went out. If you were in 2,000 lines of code and then your power went out. The other thing though too was when you typed it in by hand, any errors, man, it was horrible debugging those games back in the day. But Asteroids here was an absolute classic game from Atari, and of course no Atari machine should be without a copy of Asteroids. But let's get a much closer shot now of the actual Atari 800 XL. Now I'm going to put up real quick next to this a picture of, I'm going to put maybe a little here, so I can put a picture, I'll put it over here. So I'll put the picture like right here of the original Atari 800. And that machine was basically a tank. There was a huge chunk of aluminum inside because of FCC regulations, but it was very expensive to produce that 800. Inside, all the boards, including the processor, were in slots, so you can pop them and move them around. But again, all that added to cost. It had 4 joystick ports, again, cost. So Atari started cost reducing, and this is the result. So it's definitely, still feels heavy though. But I don't think it's aluminum. I don't know why it's so heavy. In another video, it definitely takes apart for cleaning. But it definitely has a really good weight. This started their new Atari language with being more streamlined, like a wedge shaped. Over here, we have a help button, start, select, option, and reset. These reset buttons always worried me. Now, in the original 800, there was actually two little pieces of plastic on each side, so you really had to be straight down to hit it. I hate to be typing, and I mean, there's a good spring in there, but it's just so easy for your kid brother to come and go, ah, and just reset it, and you just lost whatever you were doing. The keys themselves do feel very good. Now, these feel pretty close to what the Atari 800 original one was. There does require a good amount of force to depress. So I could definitely see like finger fatigue with these for a long period of time. And these are also yellowed quite a bit. These all should be kind of white. And this should be a much lighter color as well. So I will probably attempt retrobraiding at some point in doing that. But they have, again, a really nice keyboard in here. And now if I go to this side of the machine, we took over here, there are no ports at all. But you can see the difference here, hopefully in the video, how this has got more of a yellowing. And this is more close to the natural color. Now, a lot of people think that, they yellow due to age. It's actually the plastic itself. There was, I think it was barium. I'm not quite sure of the name of the chemical. They used to put into these plastics for fire control if these ever caught fire. And that just unfortunately makes them brittle and changes the color on them, sadly. That's a real shame. Now, if we go to the back, as you can see, the power switch is here. So I wouldn't have minded this thing being a little bit bigger and having the power supply built right into the machine. But of course, that would probably generate more heat. And maybe that was one of the concerns. There are some nice vent holes, stylish vent holes here on the top of the machine. Here is our that is our power in. So the big power brick will go into over here. We have back in the day, and they doing channel 2 and channel 3. Some of them were channel 3 and channel 4, but this is 2 and 3 over here. Just a slider switch. So when you went to your TV set and you used your little box here, when you switch to computer, you had to make sure you're broadcasting the RF out in the right channel instead of to channel 3. And again, some TVs were better than others. It's actually better with the older machines where you can kind of fine-tune by hand a knob versus the digital TV sets. Because if it was really out of sync, you wouldn't get you'd get an even worse picture, basically. And here is how I would be connecting at this point in time. It's just an RF out, which is basically just taking the video signals, making them to radio frequencies that then get decoded back into the TV set like the old rabbit ears would have done. Now here is our monitor out. So I will make a cable for this at some point, so it'll give me the best possible picture quality with the machine here. Now, again, with all these Ataris, from the 400 all the way up to their Game System XE series, all of them, there are so many different types of modifications to get the best signal out here. You can get just composite out, you can get RGB out, you can get VGA out, you can get HDMI out. It just depends how much you want to spend. And some of them are very simple. Some of you remove the graphics chip and put it into the new board. I'll probably post a video on that because there's so many different ways to get better video out of here. And then this here, this is an expansion port. I'm not quite sure what they use this for because that does say expansion on it. Well, that's a parallel bus. Okay, so this had a parallel bus. Something that Atari really didn't do, and I'm going to show you why right now because of this. This is called the SIO, and this was developed with the original 400, 800, and was continued through every single 8-bit Atari computer that it had. And basically, it's the precursor and granddaddy of USB. This port, you could daisy chain as much as you wanted. It's not quite auto-configuring. Some devices, you did have to flip a switch so it knew what device it was. But this was really a fantastic port, well-designed, and gave the Atari the ability basically to have what USB would eventually turn out to be. Connecting floppy drives, modems, cassette drives, all through this one port and just daisy chaining. When you have a cassette drive or a modem or a floppy drive, they'd have two of these. So you go from here to that, and then you can daisy chain and keep daisy chaining out as far as you wanted to go. I'm not quite sure what they used the parallel bus for, because again, with this SIO, all I ever remember was seeing the SIO devices for this. I'm not really sure what they used that for. And on the last side here was a downgrade. They took away the 4 control ports and went with 2 standard controller ports. Of course, it takes 2 standard Atari joysticks or any joystick that's compatible with the 2600, or 4 paddles, because each paddle controller had 2, so you could do up to, play like Warlords or something like that on here. And of course, they have a nice big red LED on here. I'm not even going to power this on yet because I do want to check the power supply. I want to make sure the voltages are good before I go inside here. And you know, this line that came out in 1979. I have to look up, but this one might have been an 82 or an 83. I'm not quite sure when the XL came out. I have to look that up. But the chipset in here eventually will go up against things like the Commodore 64, which came out in 82. And this chipset was designed back in like 78, came out in 79. And honestly, if you go head-to-head between the two, this was still bested. Unfortunately, Atari was a little more expensive. They didn't want to get into the price wars. They went down a little bit in price, but they weren't going into the price war with Commodore and TI and everyone else was driving the prices way down. And that kind of hurt them. I think about 2 million units totally sold of the 8-bit line, which was still very good. But as far as graphics and sound, it was still the top one, the best unit. Still, yes, better than Commodore 64. People love the SID, I get it. But the Pokey would hold its own against that SID any day of the week. And the graphic modes and this Atari would be better. In fact, just so you guys know, this was the very first home computer that had co-processor chips. So it had dedicated video graphics chips and sound chips. So the main CPU could offload graphic tasks and sound tasks, those co-processor chips, which a lot of the CPU is only 1.76 megahertz, to run a little bit better than other machines of the day because graphics and sound were handled by the co-processors. And another point of note, Jay Miner, who was the guy who developed those chips for here, eventually led into the Amiga line of computers. So when people talk about the Commodore Amiga, Atari and this brand of its computers are really the true lineage, the true grandfather of the Amiga, which just shows how powerful and forward-thinking this machine was. And one last thing I will note before I end out the video is that even though these computers came out and then the Atari 5200 came out later, the Atari 5200 was on the drawing boards first. That was the plan, to release that first. But then in 77, when computers started taking off, and you had the Trinity, TRS-80 Model 1, Apple computer, and who am I forgetting? You had Apple, you had TRS-80. I'm forgetting someone there, the trio. Oh my God. Commodore PET, the TRS-80 Model 1. I'm forgetting the Trinity. Someone put down in the comments. I can't remember who the Trinity was. That's pretty sad. My mind is leaving me these days. But then Atari decided that we need to change that 5200 computer into a computer, and then they would release the 5200 obviously later with some stupid changes like the analog joysticks, which was really, really dumb. But still the 4 joystick ports on the original, which they then changed to 2. But again, this was originally designed as a game console, which is why the graphics and sound on these things was so incredible. and that kind of basically shows again how forward-thinking Atari was. And this machine here, I can't wait to actually power it on and try it out and go further with it. But I really want to thank Tim for setting this out. Thank you so much. It's a beautiful machine. I still have to get my hands on an Atari ST. I never owned an Atari ST. At some point I'll probably find one of those. And an original GRS Coco Model 1. I had one, and for some reason I got rid of it. I still have a Model 2 and a Model 3 GRS, but the original Model 1 with those chiclet keys, I'm still looking for it. But this here, Tim, thank you so much. It's in really, really good shape. And again, if you can remind me what the Trinity was, I know it was Apple, GRS. I can't remember the third company, and I don't know why I can't remember that third company. I'm sure someone will post that in the comments. But that's kind of why the 5200 turned into the computer, and then the 5200 came out later. And a fun fact, same thing with the Apple iPhone. The iPad came out after the Apple iPhone. However, the technology and the original goal was the iPad was supposed to come out first, but then cell phones were taken off, and Jobs said, put the iPad on hold, and we're going to do the iPhone, and then the iPad came out. So things like that are not uncommon. Well, that's it for today's video. Tim, thank you so much. This thing looks incredible. I'm still really impressed with how heavy it is. I know it's a cost-reduced Atari. It still feels like it might have aluminum in here, shielding it. But I can see the keyboard in here. I got to open up and take a look and see what's in here. But it's really got a good weight. It's in fantastic condition. I really don't see any real markings on here at all. It still has the plastic on these spots that I probably will take off, because sometimes leave them on too long, start fusing to the stainless steel, and that's no good. But it really looks good. And I'm also impressed at how hard it is to press down these keys. Good springs. But that's it for today's video. These machines, again from Atari, even though Atari is not what it used to be, they're trying to make a comeback now. And they have their Atari 400 Mini, which I call them the 400, which is a stupid name. Please call the Atari 400, not the 400. Please, Atari. But I do like seeing the company trying to make a comeback. And the 8-bit line had so many fantastic games that people did not play. One of my great memories was a game called Jawbreaker, which was a Pac-Man clone. But graphically, I'll probably do a video on this and show that game. It was just a phenomenal game I always remembered. But that's it for today's video. If you did like it, please give it a thumbs up. It really does help me out in YouTube algorithms and getting my videos out there. It takes 1 second for you, but it means really a lot to me if you could do that. If you're not a current subscriber, please consider it. I really would appreciate it. I'm very close to 11,000 subs. I think I'm down to like 5 people to 11,000 subs. 11 years on YouTube, 1,000 per year. Not bad. I don't think I can live to 1,000,000 years old, but I'll get as many as I can. I really thank all of you who have subscribed. But that's it for today. I really do appreciate you guys spending some time with me this morning looking at this unboxing video. This is fantastic. But remember, as cool as this is, people like Tim and people like you out there are great. Make sure you always tell your family and friends that you love them. Tomorrow is never promised. Whether you're from New York, Florida, California, around the world, just take a moment to tell someone you care about them and love them, because tomorrow's never promised. But in between those times, hell yeah, man! Have you played Atari today?
Have you played Atari today?
Are you looking for that arcade experience at home? If you don't have the space for a full-size arcade in your house or endless funds, then you need the GRS Build-A-Cade. It's arcade quality without the arcade price, from someone you can trust. The GRS Build-A-Cade is a very simple, easy to assemble, 1/6 scale arcade computer you can build yourself. You can buy interchangeable controllers for every gaming option you need to play the games the way they're meant to be played. You can also design your own artwork or purchase artwork separately to make your GRS Build-A-Cade look like the machine of your dreams. The GRS Build-A-Cade is also the only home system STEM certified. Come see what all the YouTube creators are raving about. GRS Build-A-Cade.
Game on.
Sit, Blue, sit. Good dog.